Hi writers, welcome to episode 4 of How to Write a Children's Book. We've done our research, we've read a whole bunch of children's books, we decided what our story was going to be about, we wrote our story, now we need to think about how we're going to visually tell the story. First thing that I would do when I'm creating one of my books is, what do I want the story to look like? You want to make sure that those visuals that you choose complement the type of story you're telling. So if you're telling a happy story or a funny story, maybe like a cartoony approach would work really well for you. If you're telling a story that has a big moral or a big theme about love or sadness or loss, maybe those illustrations should be a little more realistic so that it matches the tone of the book. Like everything else we do, we should really spend some time looking at different types of artwork in storybooks that we admire and decide what style we would be interested in. Now, there's a couple different avenues of thought here. You need to decide if you're going to create the artwork yourself or if you're going to farm it out to an illustrator. Whichever the case may be, you do need to decide how you want your story portrayed because you are the person who wrote it. And the important thing is that you are able to communicate with your illustrator, telling them how you want it to look, what you're looking for, and what you expect in that story, because it's in your imagination and they need to help you bring it to life, or you need to help yourself bring it to life. I want to talk a little bit about some of the stories that I love the illustrations in. Now, I've talked about this book a million times, Very Hungry Caterpillar. Eric Carle did painted paper collage, and that was kind of like his signature. So I don't necessarily think that this is something that you should try. So many different types of illustrations to think about. We have these alternate fairy tales in the true story of the Three Little Pigs, and these illustrations are pretty dark, because it's, like a dark tale, but they're also very cartoony. And the cartoony atmosphere of these drawings is great because it is a comedy book that works really, really well for this type of story. Obviously, the wolf in this story does not have to look like a wolf in real life. It just makes it more entertaining and it's fun. There's drawings that are like pen and ink and cartoon coloring, like this Shrek book by William Stegg. It's not the prettiest artwork, but what it does do is it does well for the story because Shrek is an ugly ogre. Of course, you would want the artwork to complement the story that you're talking about. You also don't need the artwork to look realistic. I mean, Dragons Love Tacos are pretty cool. It's a cartoon. It's funny. But any dragon I've ever seen, which is not many because I've only seen them in Harry Potter, and that's just the Hollywood interpretation of what a dragon looks like. But Daniel Salmiri's dragons are great. They're very cute. They're fun. They don't have to look realistic. You are the author. Whatever you see in your mind, write down on paper, do a little sketch, whatever the case is, so that you can communicate that idea. It's important that your idea is what comes out at the end and not what the illustrator wants. You do not want your illustrator to go rogue on you. If you just say, here's the story, you do what you think is best, that's an option for you if you're not sure. But I would not want to give up all that control. If I have an idea for a story, I know the ins and outs. I want it to look the way that I want it to look, and I'm going to make sure that that vision comes to fruition. In the last video, I gave you a free worksheet that I hope you downloaded, because if you didn't download it, shame on you. Shame. 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 I hope that you downloaded it because in it, there were 3 columns. You had the pages, you had the text on the page, and then the visuals. Those are the visuals. Those are some phrases or words that you wrote down to remind you of what you wanted the images on the page to look like. And it's important that you go back to those because when you're starting to do some storyboarding or some concept art or some sketching, you can look there and say, oh, that's what I really wanted to do. That was something that was exciting to me. Now, I talked a little bit about in the last video this yellow legal pad, and I love these yellow legal pads because you can doodle on them, you can draw, you can write, you can do whatever you need while you're writing your story, and you can flip back through it so that you can go right to where you need to go. I want to show you a page here that was just an idea page. And this was a story that I came up with that I'm going to be working on. And the important thing that I have on this paper are how I want the book to look. So I have here 4 or 5 panels of having problems writing cards and getting more frustrated. So in this line of text that is going to be on the book, I know that the visuals are here, and that's what I am going to draw. Now, I drew my own illustration, so I was the one that decided how it was going to look, and then I made that happen. If you're an author illustrator, you need to focus on how the book's going to look and how it's going to sound. So you need to think, how big do you want the book? Do you want like an 8.5 by 11 size book? Do you want it to be a book like the Polar Express where it's a little wider? Okay. However you decide to do it, you need to make sure your artwork fits in that shape. And there's plenty of opportunities and resources on Amazon KDP. They have great resources to show you sizing, how to decide what size works for you, and how to choose the size that's best for your book. They don't offer all sizes, so like if you wanted a book that's hardcover, for instance, you need a page minimum, and the page minimum of the children's book does not meet their criteria at this time to be able to be hardcover. If you want a hardcover children's book, Ingram Spark is definitely the way to go. And in another series of videos coming up, I will be going that route. So I will walk you step by step through it so that you know how to go about doing that. So it's important to really have an idea, do some research, see what sizes work for you. Children's books are a hardcover market, so I would definitely go the route of hardcover. I personally did not do that at the beginning because I just wanted to work on the process. But eventually my book, Hey, I'm Clay, I would like to have in hardcover. A lot of different thought that goes into these works. You need to really decide what's going to work best for you and then make it happen. Okay? So, write out a sketch idea of what you want your story to look like. If you have a color scheme in mind, maybe you want the story to be in black and white. That works. Look at your favorite books again. Decide which way you would like to go. Sketch on paper. And then when it comes time to find an illustrator, if you're not going to do it, I would suggest saving some money because this is a skill that these people bring. You can find illustrators all over the internet. Just Google illustrators for children's books. A billion will pop up. Find somebody that you are going to mesh with, that's going to focus on bringing your vision to life. You do not want somebody that's going to put their ego ahead of your project. All right? If they don't like your project, they will say no, and then you will find somebody else who can do it. I trust that it is going to be easy to find. There's plenty of people willing to work, but you need to pay them. And if they ask for $4,000, $5,000 to do the book, I would highly suggest trying to find that money if you like their work, because it is an investment in yourself. Now, that's also a lot of money to think about, but don't think that you're going to be able to cut corners on the art, because the art is what makes the children's book the best. You could also decide to do an entire draft of the drawings yourself and then maybe go on Fiverr or one of those websites where people list their services and have them finesse the drafts to make final artwork. Maybe they wouldn't charge as much as it would be to create the artwork from scratch. It's up to you. There's a lot of avenues, but you need to do what's best for your story. So have fun, be visual, think about the way you want your story to look, and get good at communicating it, because the next step is taking what you wrote and making it actually look like a children's book. Like, subscribe, and share. Good luck. Have fun. See you next time.